RedHeadTakes here, back again. We are back with week 10 of the NFL season. Last week I went 10-5, so not bad, but definitely learned some lessons. If you're planning on picking the Broncos against teams that are actually good, do not do that because they will disappoint you. I mean, they just got their asses ripped apart from poo hole to goo hole. There was never any chance the Broncos had ever a chance to win that game. Now, this week, we're going to be subjected to some absolutely terrible games. Well, at least one. Especially if you're in Germany. You know, the NFL is trying to grow the game and everything. Put your best games out here. Put your best foot out there. Why in the fuck would you subject the people of Germany to Panthers and Giants? Could you have a worse game? So, are you really serious about growing the game? Because if you're not, then don't do it. These fucking Sunday morning games are terrible. Most of the times. Even when good teams play each other, they're just bad. They're just not the right element. It's just not right to work. I know you just love money. NFL loves money. Money drives these NFL, but we'll talk about that more in a little bit. Go from top to bottom. And according to the poll, I only had it after 3 hours today, so I'll leave it up there, but I made up my mind. So the game that I'm going to preview later on this week is going to be Lions Houston, since that's the one that most people picked, and we saw the Bengals Ravens. I'll go over that shortly, but Lions Texans will be the preview game of the week, like I normally would do a Green Bay Packer game. But since they're not playing this week and they finally get a bye, we will do the Lions and the Texans. But let me know what you think down below, and let's get to it. Starting with our first game of the week, Cincinnati versus Baltimore. Now, Cincinnati came up with a big game, but is it because they're back or because they're playing the Raiders? Chase Brown had a great game. Joe Burrow has been fantastic all year round. Chase didn't do too much. Mike Gesicki had a nice game, especially if you're looking at Mike Gesicki in fantasy. He is definitely a good guy to have every once in a while, but matchup dependent for sure. I'm not sure if he'll be able to recreate this kind of performance on a week-to-week basis. Certainly not a week-to-week basis, especially, I mean, the Raiders is just one of those teams that, I mean, you play all your best guys because you know they're going to have a good game, but then after that you use better judgment based on the actual matchup because the Raiders are just that bad. They're just a bad team. Defense still never improved despite the fact that they have Max Crosby and others on the team. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Well, it doesn't hurt that Christian Wilkinson is out for the year, but again, it's just no matter who they have on that team, the Raiders defense will continue to be bad. But back to the Cincinnati Baltimore. Baltimore, again, looking like one of the best teams in the league. They were fantastic. Zay Flowers has been a great target for Lamar all year round. We'll see what Deontay Johnson is able to do. Derrick Henry still churning out, still headed maybe towards breaking Eric Dickerson's record. Although I gotta admit, I don't think he'll get there. I think he'll get close. He'll get close to there like Adrian Peterson did. But I think he'll just fall a little bit short. But he does have a chance, especially if he continues at the rate he's going right now. But this should be one of the better games of the week. It's in Baltimore, so Baltimore did win the game last time because Cincinnati just shot themselves in the foot last time with a missed field goal, and it was over after that. But, you know, the thing holding me from picking Cincinnati is their defense. Their defense is horrible. Lamar is probably going to go off. Derrick Henry is certainly going to go over 100 yards in this game. And it's just, I don't see any way, for as good as the offense is for the Cincinnati Bengals, I just don't see any reason to pick the Bengals. I just don't see them winning. Unless, if their defense was moderately respectable, it would be a much better game. But because the Bengals don't have a good defense, I'm going to go with the Ravens once again. They're going to win. Let's see, 27-24. It'll be a close game, but again, the defense for the Bengals is going to be the reason why they lose. But next, and here's that aforementioned game that nobody wants to talk about because it is just that bad. The Panthers and the Giants in Germany. Good God, why do you subject the German people to this kind of masochism. I mean, seriously, the Giants are terrible. The Panthers, yes, they got a win, but they played the Saints, who are just as fucking bad. The Giants, Daniel Jones is just a mess. Sure, they made the game close last week, but still, it really was the Commanders' game all the way. Malik Neighbors still a good receiving option, but Daniel Jones just can't get him on a normal basis. I heard something today that apparently in the locker room, Daniel Jones was asked if he voted, and he said, "I do not vote." And apparently Malik Neighbors overheard the conversation, said, "So your decisions off the field are just as the ones off the field." This is such a burn. That's great. I hope that's actually true, because that's a fantastic line and a fantastic comeback, because, again, Daniel Jones he's just bad. And the Panthers, Chuba Hubbard, he should probably have a pretty good game in this one. Bryce Young had a decent game last week, but again, playing against the Saints, who are just totally tanking as far as I can tell. I mean, there's no other reason to say it, but they're just tanking. I guess this should be a relatively close game just because they're both so bad. But I'm going to give this game to the Panthers. The Panthers win 2 games in a row. Surprising when they should be losing, trying to get that top overall pick, because they need all the help they can get. But because the Giants are just that bad, I will give the game to the Panthers on the fact that Chuba Hubbard should have a good game. And their defense should be able to cause the Giants a little bit of trouble on the offensive line. But the final score should be 24-21. A close game nonetheless, but I will give it to the Panthers just because I think they have a slightly better running game. And Bryce Young has just been playing a little bit better than Daniel Jones, but we shall see. Next, another one of those games of the week. San Francisco and Tampa Bay. San Francisco coming off the bye. Tampa Bay coming off a heartbreaker on Monday night. Again, the Chiefs keep getting calls. My God, another false start penalty missed by the refs, allowing the Chiefs to set up and win the game. I mean, the Chiefs had that game in the bag, and the Tampa Bay came back and tied it up by the end of the game. But of course, you're Patrick Mahomes. You're going to win you're more than likely going to win. And sure enough, a penalty that should have been called, that could have pushed the Chiefs back quite a bit, again, doesn't get called, and the Chiefs win. Buccaneers lose. The Buccaneers, for all intents and purposes, didn't have a great game Monday night, but Cade Otton is becoming a real reliable target for Baker Mayfield. Legitimately, the real targets other than a running back. Rashad White, good receiving back. Bucky Irving, a decent receiving back. Both running backs are pretty interchangeable in terms of skill on and off, but again, the Tampa Bay defense is not great. San Francisco coming up the bye, we'll see. Debo should be ready to go. Kittle, I would assume, should be ready to go. I don't think Christian McCaffrey plays this week. I think they hold him back just because they'll have him ready to play the Packers in Lambeau. It's just what I think is going to happen. Well, actually, that'll probably be towards the end of the world. So we probably will. I don't know if he plays this week, but he'll probably play next week. Well, we shall see. But Purdy has not been the greatest this year, but he's been way more consistent than Baker. They're both pretty interchangeable quarterbacks at this point, but I will give the game to San Francisco. Should be a close game regardless. 20-17. I think that's a reasonable score. No Mike Evans this week. Again, he'll hopefully, for Tampa Bay's sake, be able to return in 2 weeks after their bye week. But I think San Francisco just has a little bit more for them. And I think their defense is just a little bit better than Tampa Bay's. Tampa Bay's defense is just not great. And it's been a real Achilles heel for them down the stretch. Next. Denver and Kansas City. Now, this should be a decent game, all things considered, because Denver's defense is decent against not the best offenses. And let's be honest, the Chiefs don't have the best offense in the world, but they're consistent. They just churn out yards. They just keep going. And DeAndre Hopkins looks to be a really good weapon for Patrick Mahomes. And Kareem Hunt is just a reliable running back. He didn't have the greatest start to the game. Or first half, he had 7 carries for 16 yards. And then by the end, he had over 100 yards and he had a touchdown. He just churned out yards against Tampa Bay's defense down the stretch and really propelled the Chiefs towards a win on Monday night. Denver, again, their offense just didn't look great against Baltimore, and I should not have expected that. I never should have picked the Broncos to beat the Ravens. It was a fool's hope that they might give an upset, especially after the Ravens lost to the Browns, but Bo Nix is still a decent quarterback, but again, he still doesn't always make the greatest decisions. He's still a good option to run. Courtland Sutton is one of the only really great receiving targets for Bo Nix out there. I mean, he even had a passing touchdown last week, so he had more passing touchdowns than Bo Nix. It's in Kansas City, so again, Kansas City is going to win again. Kareem Hunt should have a pretty good game once again. Maybe the Broncos are able to hold down DeAndre a little bit, but they still have enough options out there to still get yards, still find ways to win, just because that's just the way the Chiefs are. That's the way the NFL wants it. The NFL wants the Chiefs to keep winning, and until they don't, Chiefs are going to keep winning, regardless of what any of the other teams do on the field. So I will give the game to the Chiefs, 24-17. Should be a relatively close game, but in the end, Kansas City pulls away and wins again to go to 9-0. Next, another one of the good games of the week, Pittsburgh and Washington. Now, Washington has been good all year long. They've already eclipsed their win total for this year. Pittsburgh, coming off the bye, their defense added Preston Smith today, so that should charge them up a little bit more. They also got Mike Williams, a wide receiver, although to be honest, the Mike Williams trade doesn't make as much sense as the Preston Smith trade does. Washington got Marshawn Lattimore from the Saints, and that should really help, especially allowing Washington to play more of a man scheme. They need it. Stop playing the zone because your zone sucks and you get killed with it on a weekly basis. Marshawn Lattimore should allow them to play a little bit more man-to-man because he's just one of the best man-to-man corners out there. He's really good, even though he's still injured, and we'll see if he's actually able to go this week. He'll be a real asset for them come playoff time because they're going to be in the playoffs unless some awful collapse happens, which I guess wouldn't be the most un-Washington thing to do, but, stranger things have happened. This is going to be a really good game. Pittsburgh, as long as Pittsburgh can run the ball well, I give them the edge a little bit. But in terms of quarterback play, I'll give it to Jayden Daniels. The thing about the Steelers, Russ has been having good. It's just, if you're hoping to bet on a wide receiver in fantasy, it's hard to really pick one because there's been a different head wide receiver for the Steelers basically all year. It's been up and down. You never know who's going to get all the targets. You never know who's going to get the line share of the catches and sometimes touchdowns. Jaylen Warren, we'll see if he can eat into that share by Najee Harris. I mean, he still hasn't been able to do it, even though he's healthy now. We'll see if he's able to do that. Washington, we'll see if Brian Robinson will be able to go. That would definitely be a boon for Washington for sure. This game is real toss-up. It is a real toss-up. It's as close as you can possibly get. Both are great teams. I think the overall Washington is a slightly better team in terms of offense, and the Pittsburgh are definitely a better defensive team. But I'll give it to the defense. Defense wins out. Pittsburgh wins and ends Washington's winning streak. Pittsburgh wins 27-17. to 24. It'll be a good game, but I think it might come down to Jayden Daniels, and I think he might throw an interception at the end. Something like that. I just think the Pittsburgh's defense is going to be even better with Preston Smith, and it's only going to go up from here. Now, the offense will probably be the Steelers' downfall by the end of the season, but right now, they're churning. Their defense is playing well. I'll give it to Pittsburgh to win the game. Next. Buffalo versus Indianapolis. An interesting game for sure. Now, we'll see if Indianapolis continues to go with Joe Flacco because, I mean, he didn't have a greatest game against Minnesota. And we'll see if he's able to, maybe we'll see Anthony Richardson again in this game. Who knows? I think you can say that Anthony Richardson, sir, should have been benched for his wanting to come out of the game. You can't really trust your starting quarterback if he pulls himself out of the game because he's tired. And Jonathan Taylor didn't have a great game. He's going to need to have a good game. I think he will against that Buffalo defense. He's definitely had great games against that defense in the past, so I continue expecting him to do well again. This time, Buffalo coming out the big win against Miami, sweeping, getting the season series. Now they're up 4 games in their division. Well, 5 really, because they beat the Jets. I mean, they're 7-2. The Jets have 3 wins. The Dolphins have 2 wins, and the Patriots have 2 wins. So, man, that division is just about locked up. The Bills could have that division locked up by week 11. So, at least that's what I believe. So, I like the Buffalo to continue to move the ball as long as they can continue to run the ball with James Cook, and Josh Allen can continue to keep the interceptions and the turnovers to a minimum. He had a second straight game with an interception this past game, but again, he's only had 2 so far this year through 9 weeks, so that's pretty darn good. I will give the edge to the Buffalo Bills because Josh Allen is a better quarterback than Joe Flacco. James Cook is arguably just as talented as Jonathan Taylor, and I think overall Buffalo has the better defense, but it's in the dome. I'll give it to Buffalo. Buffalo wins this game 27-20. I think it'll be a good game for the most part, but I think Indy just doesn't have enough to them with Joe Flacco. I mean, Joe Flacco probably does give the Colts the best chance to win right now, but Buffalo's a better team. They're the team of destiny right now. They want to make up for all the mistakes they made in the past. They want to get that home field advantage. I know they're still 2 games behind the Chiefs because the Chiefs haven't lost, but they can somehow get that home field advantage. I think this team might be the year where they actually go far, but who knows? Remains to be seen. Buffalo wins 27-20, but it should be a great game, as expected. Minnesota and Jacksonville. Minnesota coming out the big win over Indy, although they had a really bad first half. Will Riker missed 2 field goals after being pretty good all year long. Now he's injured. We'll see if he's able to play. Jacksonville nearly came back and beat the Eagles, and after the backwards hurdle by Saquon Barkley destroyed their souls. Jacksonville definitely had a decent chance to win last week, but I mean, it's in Jacksonville, so maybe that gives them the edge over Minnesota, and Minnesota has been pretty up and down the past couple weeks. I mean, Sam Darnold is starting to, throw more interceptions and make mistakes. As long as Minnesota continues to run or move the offense through Justin Jefferson, they'll be good. Because Aaron Jones isn't a great running back, but he's still consistent on a week-to-week basis, turning out about 60-70 yards every week and getting a touchdown. For the most part, he looks pretty good. Their defense is not great, but it's pretty solid when they need to be. And Jacksonville, it's just an up-and-down team. They're not a great team. I mean, they made a game of it last week, but still, it was the Eagles in the end. Minnesota wins this game. I would like to think this is a trap game for Minnesota, and they potentially lose, but I'm going to give it to Minnesota just because Justin Jefferson is such a potent weapon, and I don't think Jacksonville is going to have any answers to him this week once again. So, Minnesota wins 30-20. 24. Yeah, kind of an odd score, but Minnesota wins. Jacksonville has a chance to make it close, but ultimately I think they come up a little bit short. Next. Atlanta versus New Orleans. Now, I was expecting this game to be really good at the beginning of the year, but it's going to be a bloodbath. New Orleans is selling off pieces left and right. Derek Carr is getting talked shit about by Michael Thomas and other people in that locker room. Him being, at least some people seeing him as the reason why Chris Olave just got absolutely killed the other day. It's gonna be relatively short. Bijan Robinson should have a really good game. Darnell Mooney should be able to have a really good game. Kirk Cousins should be close to 300 yards, 4 touchdowns in this game. I don't see any way that New Orleans wins. Last week was the last week I picked the Saints all year. Atlanta, and they still couldn't beat the Panthers. Atlanta should win this game pretty handily. There's just not a lot to look forward to on the Saints. The Saints should just continue to tank for one of those quarterbacks next year, because they do have a good team. They just need a good quarterback, and Derek Carr is just not it. He's just too inconsistent. He'll give you a couple of good games. He'll be fool's gold for most of the year. Then he'll just out of nowhere have a really good game. Then people think, oh, he's back. But then he just, again, like I've said before, then he has like 200 yards, no touchdowns. He's just one of the most inconsistent players you will ever see. Like Barry McHockner always says, he's either the worst good quarterback or the best worst quarterback in the NFL. There's no other word to describe. He's just the definition of inconsistent. So Atlanta's going to win this game 28-14. Maybe New Orleans makes a game of it for a little bit and gets like an early touchdown. But again, Atlanta's the superior team. As much as I think Atlanta will eventually find some way to crash and burn towards the end of the season, this just doesn't seem to be the year that's going to happen. This might finally be the year where they win the division outright and make some noise potentially in the playoffs. But remains to be seen. But again, Atlanta's going to win. New Orleans just continues to sink further and further into the muck. It's just awful. Next. New England versus Chicago. Chicago coming off 2 straight bad losses. New England losing at the last second, or losing in overtime to Tennessee. Drake May had that amazing backwards throw to win the game, but it's more so just on the Tennessee defense falling apart at the end. Again, Caleb Williams not playing well. Bunch of stuff going on in the locker room. All the talk about Eberflus being retired, being fired. He's not going to be fired during the season because that's just not what the McCaskies do. They've never done that, and I don't think they'll do that here. But I mean, if the season continues to go the way it is looking like it's going, he will be gone by the end of the year. Actually, frankly, unless they make a miracle run and go like 6-1 down the stretch or something like that, I don't see any reason why Atl Vs is able to keep his job. And again, they'll just begin the cycle over again, where Caleb Williams has one coach 1 year, then they change in his second year, he has to learn a whole new system, and then people think he's good, but then he's really not. And then they just cycle of quarterbacks. It's just the cycle of the Bears over and over and over, and they do the same thing with every new quarterback, and no wonder why quarterbacks don't succeed in Chicago. You have DJ Moore walking off on plays. Again, it's just, last week was just a bad display for the Bears. He just got absolutely torn apart by the Cardinals, and New England is a bad team, so I'll give the Bears the win. But man, if the Bears lose this game to the Patriots, questions are going to need to be asked for the Bears for sure. Bears will win this one 24-17. Even that might be generous for the Patriots, but again, like I said, if the Bears lose, bad news in Chicago for sure. because then they have the Packers. And that'll be for another loss on the schedule. Next, Tennessee versus the Chargers. Chargers with a big win over the Browns. Their defense looked to lead. J.K. Dobbins has been great all year, burgeoning on running back 1 in fantasy. Like, he's an automatic start every week. He's just that good. Tennessee, again, Mason Rudolph putting up numbers admirably. There's just not a lot of good to say about Tennessee other than Tony Pollard. He's like the only consistent piece on that offense. Defense, still able to make plays here and there, but again, usually not enough because the offense is just not great. The Chargers are looking at a potential playoff berth this year, so it's in LA. Even though the Chargers don't have any real fans, the Chargers should win this one. Justin Herbert should be able to make his plays. J.K. Dobbins should have a great day on the ground, and yeah, I don't see a lot of reason for Tennessee to win this game. So probably not going to be the most watchable game of the week unless you're watching the Chargers beat them down. Chargers win 26-18, something weird like that. But the Chargers win. Again, I don't really see any reason for Tennessee to win this game. Next, the Jets versus Arizona. It's in Arizona. The Jets coming off the big win on Thursday night over the Texans. Arizona with the big win over the Bears. Arizona has all the momentum right now. Kyler Murray hasn't been great, but he's, not made a lot of mistakes, so that's good. James Conner has been a reliable running back. Trey McBride is one of the great young tight ends in the league. Amari DeMarcado had that really good run last week. Trey Benson had a touchdown as well. The defense for the Cardinals looked pretty good last week, holding the Bears to only 3 field goals, so that was good. The Jets, Aaron Rodgers is like fool's gold this year. He's like Derek Carr. He has a couple good games, but then he has a couple bad games. He consistently throws touchdowns on a week-to-week basis, but he's starting to slowly throw more interceptions here and there. Breece Hall should have a nice game this week. Garrett Wilson has been getting better and better, so hopefully he's able to have a good game. This could be an interesting watch. I'm going to give it to the Cardinals, but I see a world where the Jets win. I do. But I'm going to give it to the Redbirds. The Birds win 24-17. Yeah, I think Arizona wins this game, but should be pretty good for most of it. Next, Philly and Dallas. What would have been an amazing game to look forward to is no longer an amazing game because it's looking like Dak Prescott is going to miss weeks going forward. CeeDee Lamb, we'll see if he's able to play this week. And again, they just don't have much in the running game. Rico Dowdle's been decent this year, I guess. Defense still missing Micah Parsons, and that loses a lot of pop in their defense. And Philly's just been all world. Hurts has been great all year. Saquon Barkley has been a revelation for the Eagles. A.J. Brown didn't have the best game last week, but I like him to have a really, really good game this week. No Dallas Goedert, so I forgot who their backup tight end is. I should have a chance for some points this week for fantasy. Again, it's in Dallas, so if Dak was playing in this game, you could maybe convince me to pick the Cowboys, but no Dak, potentially no CeeDee Lamb. There's no reason why the Cowboys win this game. If the Cowboys win this game, it's because the Eagles lose, and Sirianni gets blamed again. But Eagles should win this pretty handily. I mean, it'll probably be close early on just because these teams always play each other close. But in the end, the Eagles pull away, winning the game 30-20. Again, should be close early on, but yeah, not a great game overall. Next, and our last game of the week. Miami versus the Rams, which is an interesting game on paper. Now, again, the Dolphins are 2-7, so not great. But offensively, they're able to score. It's just their defense is not really good. It's really bad. The Rams have had a big comeback, had a big win in overtime last week. A big walk-off, one-handed catch by Demarcus Robinson to win the game. Karen Williamson had the greatest game last week, but Stafford is still out there making plays. Puka Nacua got ejected last week because he punched a player, so that's not a good look. We had Cooper Kupp had a pretty good game, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, I believe. And the defense has been pretty darn good for the most part for the Rams, without things considered, without Aaron Donald this year. Miami, Tua definitely makes the team better for sure, but again, they always seem to miss out and not make enough plays. Devon Achane has been absolutely fantastic. When him and Tua are out there, he's recording like 6 to 7 receptions a game, then adding another 50 to 60 yards on the ground, and usually at least 1 touchdown. If you have him in fantasy, you're like, I'm so glad I held on to him in fantasy. I'm so glad, because he's just been a revelation. He's been going off every week, especially since Tua came back. He's been really darn good, and yet they still haven't won any more games. Well, they won 1 game, but it was against the Patriots, so that's not a great ambassador of your team. But I will give it, it's in LA. I will give it to the Rams. The Rams is just been playing well. They need to keep winning to keep up with the Cardinals. They need to keep up with the Cardinals, who currently lead the division in the NFC West. And while San Francisco is still reeling with injuries, this would be a game to get another win, keep it up. And man, that NFC West is wide open. I never would have thought the NFC West would be this wide open this late in the year. But yeah, I'm going to give it to the Rams. The Miami Dolphins will be able to put up points for sure. The Rams will be able to put up points for sure. But in the end, I will give it to the Rams 27-23, something like that. It should be a good game. It should be a really good game for Monday night. But again, the Rams just have a little bit more, and they'll pull through. Now, Tyreek Hill still has yet to have a really good game, but this might be the game where Tyreek Hill finds a over 100-yard game, maybe a touchdown or 2. This might be his game to break out, but we shall see. Let me know what you think down below. Again, like I said earlier, Detroit-Houston will be our featured preview game of the week, so I'll break that down further on Thursday. That'll come out. Again, check out the polls. There's always a new poll on the channel every day. Currently, there's a poll on there if I should review Dragon Ball Daima. There's a poll on there about what was the biggest reason why the Packers lost, and then there's one about which team had the best which team was the best from week 9. And of course, if you still want to vote on the poll of which game to pick, even though it's already been decided, go right ahead. I do like the engagement. I do like the comments that you people say, but let's keep it going. Remember, election day, go out and vote. No matter who you root for, just go out and vote. It's one of our greatest freedoms in this country. You have the power to make the change. Go out and vote, especially if you like Trump. But let me know what you think. Have a great day, and as always, go Pack Go. God bless.